G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle. This is one of those videos that you just know when you're making it, it's going to be really painful reading through the comments afterwards, but you do it anyway because the topic needs to be spoken about. And the topic, of course, is toxic positivity. There's two words that will actively upset a great many people if ever there was a certain way to do so. But I want to talk about it because I believe it's real and I've been butting heads with it for years now. So it's about time we address the phenomena. Now, I guess the first place to start with this is trying to maybe define toxic positivity. And it's kind of a hard thing to nail down. Everyone is familiar with negative toxicity, that end of the spectrum where people are just pricks. It's real, we all know it exists, but it's relatively minor, I'd argue. Restricted to just a few fools who place the most ludicrous of rules on others. It could be that they don't like your army faction, so they won't let you play at the local club. Maybe they don't like your skin tone, your race, your gender. Maybe they're just a wannabe Napoleon who fancies themselves the lord of gaming and wants to make what should be a fun, friendly game into a miserable match where they're basically trying to beat their record tabling their opponent. Maybe they're just a weird creeper who any girl that joins the group they just do weird, creepy things to. These people are real, they're out there. So, if we can admit that those people exist, can we not also admit that there is an opposite force at the other end of the spectrum, whose the things they do are equally bad, but for a totally different set of reasons? Let's find some common ground here, okay? Now, I think that most people fit into the middle, leaning towards the positive side, with extremes at both ends. People want to think the best of one another, but of course there are people who always take it too far, and that goes for anything in life. I would say though, the toxic positivity group is far larger than the negative group. So what is it? Well, toxic positivity is when you ask a legitimate question about a legitimate problem, and you get censored or heckled and jeered for it. It's when you ask, why is my rules for this unit missing war gear for this item? It doesn't make sense. This unit, it's missing things. And the response people give you is, they'll probably FAQ it later. Who cares? Stop complaining. Stop whinging. It was a legitimate question. What about toxic positivity in other lights? Well, it sucks. Because I've learned you can't debate it. You're not answering the same questions but the positive crowd is. Because what they do is they decide a new question or a new statement on your behalf, and they respond to that perception. For example, toxic positivity is when someone rocks up with a group of Primara Space Marines who all have boob armor, and they're all modelled as Sisters of Battle. And you ask them, hey, why do you have female Space Marines? It doesn't mean that you asked in a negative way. It could just be a curiosity, like, oh, what was the thought pattern here? But the response they give is, why not? Are you sexist? Do you hate that I did it to Marines? Can't cope with it? That wasn't the question you asked. Rather than answering it, they now deface you, defame your character, and the average person will then turn around and seek to defend themselves, and all of a sudden, the comments devolve into a back and forth about whether you're a sexist or not, for example. I literally watched a guy fall into that trap about a week ago. Very unpleasant. Toxic positivity also loves to hide behind catch-all phrases that are really hard to respond to because the answer is complex and people can't do that on the internet. For example, my all-time favourite is, it's my hobby. How do you respond to that? They're right, it is their hobby. Well, it's all about the way they share their hobby. If they come into a group of dedicated hobbyists whose goal is to recreate something precisely, and the incoming person is anathema to it, do you entertain them simply because it's their hobby? At what point are you allowed to look out for yourself and your hobby? Do you not count? Do you not give a shit about yourself? If they come into your space and don't respect it, why should you extend them the courtesy? Vice versa though, don't go into their space and expect to change them. That does go both ways. Toxic positivity is being forced to support those things that you don't like. Toxic positivity is when someone expresses concerns and is hounded for it. Hey guys, I'm a bit worried about these big releases where a codex drops and, 1 month later, I've had the whole edition change. I never got used to the codex. I never even got to play it once. I don't know that I want a new edition that reduces my purchase to nothing. Boy, I actually saw that one play out as well. It happened after the Sisters of Battle were released. COVID lockdowns locked down everyone all year, and a few months after they got their release, they brought out a new edition of the game. Well, we got to see the arguments for that, and there was multiple arguments from the toxic positivity crowd. So helpful were they that they came up with at least 4 good ones. You can still play the old edition. The company doesn't owe you. They're a business. Why are you complaining? This old edition sucks, and the new one will be way better. Can't cope with change, huh? Some of these lines are being used even now to crap on heresy players who don't like the look of the new game. The unable to stand change argument is becoming all too common, and like many of the other arguments, it really sucks to go against because it removes all the nuance from the situation. It puts you on the defensive, where you have to explain, hang on, no, let me respond to that. I'm fine with change, followed by a long thread on what actually is your problem and why you're not content. Then you cop another gotcha comment like, well, I guess you're not good at the game if you can't cope with new things. It's like, it's just smooth brain thinking. It's not a debate. It's a person who has already decided you're just whinging, and they won't listen to your fair and equitable complaints. Toxic positivity is when you go into a heresy group and create a post and say, here's my Primaris Stormcast Hobgoblin Zerg whatever. I know it's not heresy, but don't hate on me. Why? Why are you here then? Why are you posting, and why do others have to put up with it? It's almost as infuriating as those flogs who tag things that aren't there. They show you a Plague Marine, and the tag is hashtag Hobbit, hashtag Lord of the Rings, hashtag Hell for Legion, hashtag I'm an attention whore, go check out my shit. Of course the person who calls out said Hobgoblin Stormcast and says, but that isn't heresy, is suddenly the bad guy. For what? For telling the fucking truth? When did the truth get so bad? The person then gets banhammer for holding the most mild of opinions. Because the admins are pussies and want the group to be a happy place. Happy for who, though? Don't laugh at this example, guys. It happened today. I saw that happen to a guy today. And the band guy even said to the person, you know, they look nice, but they're Primaris Marines. They're not exactly Horus Heresy, even if the paint scheme's great. But that apparently is toxic behaviour. It's toxic to gatekeep like that. Toxic positivity is when the company releases a new box, which is just old miniatures, with one new mini in there. And the only way to get the new miniature is to buy this box full of crap you don't need. Maybe it's not just a mini, maybe it's this game that's on screen, La Horus Heresy version 2.0, and your rulebook is paywalled inside that $475 box. It doesn't matter either way, because it's a real problem, and yet the toxic positivity crowd will take up the mantle of White Knight, defender of the corporation, and they will argue with the very people arguing on their behalf for better rights, all while defending a company that actively exploits them. Sounds harsh to use the term exploit? Well, let's think about it. What would you call feeding a dopamine hit and the rush, the thrill of purchasing a heavily overpriced product that is often cast to the side straight after because you in fact did not need it after all? Don't think you're being exploited when your loyalty is being turned against you. Defending a faceless corporation against legitimate critique is surely terrible. So why do so many do it? It's only Games Workshop that seems to get such passionate defense, I've noticed. At least in movies and TV shows and automobiles and holiday vacations and hotel rooms, all of these things, restaurants, we're happy to give opinions on them. Oh, it was good, it was bad, it sucked, I got food poisoning, I shit through the eye of a needle for a month. There was blood. Right. Legitimate complaints. But you turn around and you say something about this company? No, stop being so toxic. Yeah, you're just salty macker. Toxic positivity is telling Australians that the prices are fair because either they feel we earn more, maybe Games Workshop needs to make money, Or there's some arbitrary special import tax that disproportionately affects only Games Workshop products exclusively when they come into the country. Then, when those people are told the reality of our situation, have the issues explained to them in depth, they still don't take the problems to heart, saying, you don't know what you're talking about. When there's some foreigner with no concept of what your life is like or what your background is. I've fallen into that one, and I've seen dozens of other Aussies and Kiwis also fall into that one. What about the comment threads in forums or on Facebook, the ones where they skew away from everything is great, and all of a sudden the admins step in and close the thread because suddenly it's too toxic? Really? It's too toxic to discuss things that will garner strong opinions? Is my Legion good in this new edition of the game? Psh, thread shut down. Criticism detected. Are we not adults? Can we not talk about those things? Like, why else do these groups exist? What about when leaks occur and some member of a group has the emotional fortitude of a potato and suffers anxiety from the leaks? Now, anxiety is very real, yes. But let's look at the scope of the planet and our problems and figure out where this lies on the scale of things to be anxious about. They don't want to see leaks. They want to experience the release as a whole community. So the admins cave and they turn the group into a safe space for the cretin. Here's a solution for you. Turn your fucking newsfeed off and grow a pair. Why does the world have to look out for you and your precious fucking feelings? Why can't you be responsible for your own? Be responsible for yourself and your own feelings. Why does everyone around you have to walk on eggshells? You're the one with the problem, and you're making everyone else adjust. Why would the admins have to put up with it? Why do they turn around and support you? What would the admins do if they got a counterclaim that now one of the silenced people who was doing the leaks turns around and says, well, I get anxiety from being silenced? Would they cave in and give them special treatment? Or does one outweigh the other? Of course not. We all know the answers to this bullshit. Define toxic positivity. No, I couldn't do such a thing. It's one of those nebulous things where it's not any one single thing that's toxic. It's an entrenched set of patterns and behaviours, and the minute you hold these people to account, you're gatekeeping. That's where the argument begins and ends. You're gatekeeping. You're bad. There's no logic. There's no nuance. There's no debate. There's no matter how terrible something is. It must be allowed to thrive and be supported. That, my friends, is toxic positivity. So for all the people out there saying toxic positivity isn't real, this guy needs to touch grass. This guy can't cope with change. All these stupid catchphrase statements that people come out with. Blow it out your ass. It's real. It's a problem. People can be overly enthusiastic for something and turn it into a negative. It's real. Anyway, what do you think about it? I want to see your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. Well, I say I want to. I'm kind of trepidatious in reality, because what are the comments going to be below? Let's find out. Mac at the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.